Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into what is maybe the absolute definition of a criminal puzzle, the Zodiac killer.
Right.
We've stacked up sources that track this whole horrific, mysterious saga. We're going to pull apart the confirmed timeline, the psychology of his letters, and, the really frustrating evidence against the main suspects.
What's essential to understand here is that we're not just looking at, a simple series of homicides.
Yeah.
We are looking at a murderer who consciously created a persona. It was a whole narrative designed to terrorize and, crucially, to humiliate authority.
And he was operating mostly in the San Francisco Bay Area, right?
Right.
Late 60s, early 70s.
Exactly. He nicknamed himself Zodiac. He chose that symbol, the circle with the cross over it, and just played this calculated high-stakes game with the police, with the media.
Through those letters and ciphers.
Ciphers, yeah.
And the sources, they immediately drop us right into the central mystery here. Zodiac publicly claimed he killed 37 people.
37. But when investigators tracked the actual evidence, they could only definitively link 5 victims to him. Just 5.
So that's our mission today. We're going to trace that verified timeline, analyze the just bizarre way he communicated and controlled the public narrative, and then examine the incredibly compelling but ultimately flawed evidence.
It's important to start long before the name Zodiac ever even appeared in the papers. You have to look for the patterns.
Right. So we actually have to go back 5 years earlier than what we think of as the first confirmed murders.
That's right.
The earliest incident that seems to fit the MO was July 1963 in Santa Barbara County. It sounds like a typical high school senior ditch day.
Yeah. Robert Domingo's 18 and his classmate Linda Edwards, 17. They were found at a remote beach.
And the brutality was just shocking. They were tied up. Robert was shot 11 times, Linda 9.
And the detail that really connects us to the later timeline is the weapon. Forensics identified it as a Winchester Western Super X.22 caliber rifle. But what's even more terrifying is the complete lack of motive. I mean, no robbery, no sexual assault, no known enemies. It's the first real signature of that unmotivated random violence.
And didn't he try to burn the bodies?
He did. He tried to torch them with a faulty match, which, shows a lack of planning but a very cold intent.
So that's the core thread. Random victims and that specific rifle.
Yeah.
The timeline then jumps forward to October 1966, the Cheri Joe Bates case in Riverside.
This one always stands out.
Because the MO changes so drastically.
It does. Cheri Joe, an 18-year-old college student, was found stabbed repeatedly. A 7-inch knife this time. But this case is it's absolutely vital. This is where the killer left physical trace evidence.
Right, because she fought back.
Hard. She managed to tear the attacker's wristwatch right off his wrist.
Wow.
And not just that, investigators found skin and brown hair under her fingernails.
She actually wounded him.
Precisely. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, the boot prints. They found these unique military-style boot prints near the scene. The kind only sold at Army surplus stores to people with a military ID.
So a killer who was wounded, who wore military gear, but who switched from a rifle to a knife.
And a month later, we get the first stirrings of the communication game he plays.
This is pre-Zodiac, right? He's testing the waters.
Exactly. 2 identical typed confession letters were sent to the police and a local paper detailing the crime. Then came this chilling handwritten letter signed with a crude symbol. It looked sort of like a Z or maybe the number 2. He was already demanding attention.
And then that original rifle came back.
It did. December 20th, 1968. The official start of the confirmed Zodiac murders. Lake Herman Road, David Faraday, and Betty Lou Jensen.
And this is the critical link.
It's the smoking gun, really. Forensic analysis of the casings confirmed it was the same weapon from the 1963 murders, that Winchester Super X.22 rifle.
And the same pattern.
Same pattern. Unmotivated, non-sexual, just execution. They were shot getting out of their car. Jensen took 5 bullets in the back trying to run. The killer was clearly confident, revisiting a successful MO.
Okay, so now we enter 1969. This is where he claims the name and the whole thing goes public.
Big time.
July 4th, the Blue Rock Spring shooting.
Yeah.
Darlene Ferrin was killed, Michael McGough survived, And the weapon shifted again, this time to a 9mm pistol.
What's terrifying about that incident is the sheer coldness of it. The killer drove up, fired, and then after hearing McGough moaning, he came back.
He came back to finish the job.
He returned to fire more shots. It shows this desire for absolute fatality.
And then immediately after, we get the defining moment of the entire case.
The phone call.
He calls the police from a public phone.
Yes, and he's clearly enjoying the control. He doesn't just confess to Blue Rock Springs, he ties it back to the '68 Lake Herman Road murders, confirming details only the police would know. He is building his public resume in real time.
And the media campaign just explodes. Letters go out to 3 major papers: the Vallejo Times-Herald, San Francisco Chronicle, and the Examiner.
And he's providing unreleased details from the crimes.
With a stark demand.
Yeah.
Publish this on the front page by August 1st, or he starts killing again. It was a threat, but it was also like a performance contract.
And in that August 4th letter, that's the formal introduction, he signs off for the very first time as Zodiac.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Those letters included 3 ciphers. One was solved just 4 days later by Donald and Betty Harden. What did that cipher tell us about his mindset?
It revealed his, let's call it theological justification for the violence, which is just classic narcissistic control.
What did it say?
The message read, "I like killing because it is so much fun. Man is the most dangerous animal of all. When I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and the ones I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name."
So he wasn't just killing for pleasure in the moment. He was building an army for the afterlife.
Exactly. It wasn't about rage or revenge. It was about power, control, and, building his status in paradise. And refusing to give his name, that just reinforced that he was above the law beyond earthly identification.
Let's not forget, we have a survivor. Michael McGough.
Crucial testimony.
He gave the first composite sketch details.
Yeah.
White skin, brown hair, round face, stocky build, maybe 5'8", late 20s or early 30s.
That physical description became absolutely paramount for the next attack, which was, without question, the most theatrical.
September 27th, 1969, Lake Berryessa. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard. This was pure spectacle.
Performance?
The killer shows up in a hood with the Zodiac symbol drawn on his chest. He ties them up, speaks calmly, and then stabs them. Brian 6 times, Cecilia 10. She died later.
And the theatricality was all about humiliating the police. He didn't just attack them, he carved the dates of the previous 2 murders and the new date right onto Brian's car door, signed it with the symbol and weapon-used knife.
And the boots.
The boots were there again. Clear footprints of those heavy military boots. He was methodical, stocky, and tied to military gear.
But the truly brazen act, the one that exposed this massive police failure, happened just 14 days later.
The Paul Stine taxi murder, October 11th, 1969.
Right in the heart of San Francisco. A total change of location.
Which showed huge confidence. He shot Stine, took his wallet and keys, and then, in this highly calculated move, cut a piece of the driver's blood-soaked shirt.
And there were witnesses. 3 teenage sisters saw him doing this, wiping his fingerprints off the car.
They did.
So wait, how did the police mess this up so badly? They had witnesses watching the killer as he's walking away from the scene.
It was a monumental, just catastrophic failure of procedure and communication. The witnesses, they were panicked, it was dark, and they gave an inaccurate description over the phone.
They say he had dark skin.
Mistakenly, yes. They said dark skin, slanted eyes. So when police arrived, they actually saw a stocky white man wearing glasses walking nearby, but they let him go because he didn't fit the flawed description they had.
So the Zodiac killer literally walked right past the police search perimeter.
And he knew it. This is where his mockery just peaks. He sends the blood-stained piece of Stine's shirt to the Chronicle, bragging, mocking the police, saying he was very close to the crime scene.
And if they'd searched properly, they would have found him.
He even included unidentified fingerprints from 3 of his fingers on that letter. He wasn't just a killer, he was a self-appointed media genius, proving the authorities were incompetent.
The final, confirmed physical encounter. That was March 1970, with Kathleen Johns and her baby.
A chillingly manipulative setup.
He disabled her car wheel and then offered her a ride.
Johns, who was 7 months pregnant, had this incredible gut instinct. She sensed danger, took her daughter, and jumped from the moving car into a ravine.
Her car was found burned later.
And she was instrumental. She later identified the composite sketch of Zodiac. But this incident, it marks a transition. He shifts from murder to kidnapping, maybe because his confidence was just so high.
And after this, the crimes become less physical, more about threats and communication.
Correct. The threats become increasingly dramatic until 1974. He threatens to blow up a school bus. He demands people wear pins with his symbol. He claims responsibility for the Johns kidnapping and is linked to the disappearance of Donna Lass in the Lake Tahoe area. He just kept insisting his victim count had climbed to 37.
Okay, so now we have to get into the part that shows the maddening complexity of this case.
Yeah.
The suspects. I mean, hundreds were investigated. But the two primary figures, Arthur Lee Allen and Richard Gajkowski, they show how powerful circumstantial evidence can be and how it can clash with hard science.
Let's start with Allen. He represents the ultimate circumstantial case. Everything about him seemed to scream Zodiac.
Physical match.
A perfect match for Mageau's description. Stocky, round face, brown hair, white skin. He was a U.S. Navy veteran, which immediately explains the military boots.
Right.
He owned a watch with a symbol similar to the Zodiac logo, and he lived minutes away from the first two shooting sites.
But the most compelling stuff always seemed to be his behavior, didn't it?
Absolutely. Fired from a school in 62 or 63 for having a loaded gun in his car right around the time of that Lompoc murder. More damning, he told a friend he was writing a novel about a killer who taunts the police with letters.
And the Shri Joe Bates murder, the one where the killer was wounded.
Allen took a documented sick day from work the day after her murder. That timeline connection is it's incredibly hard to dismiss.
And the connection just kept going. Mageau identified Allen's photo in 1992, and the letters stopped completely during two key periods.
Once during his police interrogation in 1971, and again when he was imprisoned in 1974.
The weight of that circumstantial evidence is it feels overwhelming.
It is. It's enough to convict in the court of public opinion, but here's the massive, frustrating contradiction and why the case is still unsolved.
The forensics.
The forensics. When the evidence was tested, the fingerprints, the trace hair and skin under Cheri Joe's nails, the handwriting samples, none of it matched Arthur Lee Allen. The hard science just did not fit the narrative.
And that failure leads us to the second big suspect, Richard Gajkowski, who was an editor for the Good Times newspaper.
Gajkowski's compelling because his life overlaps with the media campaign. He also matched the sketch, and his newspaper office was, a kilometer from where Paul Stine was murdered.
And here was a specific MO detail that pointed to him.
Yes, it goes back to the Stine murder. Gajkowski was a former Army doctor. Think about cutting a piece of the taxi driver's shirt, soaking it in blood, using it to wipe fingerprints.
Okay.
In the field, medics often cut clothing for bandages or to clean up a wound. It's surgical practice, unusual for a civilian killer, but it makes perfect sense for someone with military medical training.
And his newspaper job might have actually set the Zodiac's schedule.
It's a compelling correlation. Zodiac never sent letters on Wednesdays.
Why?
Because Wednesday was the busiest workday at the Good Times. Plus, his handwriting has similarities to Zodiac's, and some of the ciphers have these weird abbreviations like RJ, GY, GYKE that could be tied to his name.
And the letters also stopped when he was reportedly admitted to a mental hospital in 74.
Right, so you have these two incredibly strong circumstantial cases.
But the same forensic problem. His fingerprints and hair didn't match either, so how could they both be ruled out by the same evidence? Was it just a failure of early DNA testing?
That is the big question. The case relied on handwriting analysis, which is subjective, and fingerprints, which are hard science. But the core problem is probably sample quality. The original evidence was handled and stored over decades. By the time better DNA testing came along in the late 90s, a lot of that trace evidence was degraded.
So the bottom line is, the Zodiac killer created a persona that was ultimately more powerful and enduring than his actual identity.
He played the system and he won. He evaded capture despite leaving this incredibly public trail of communication designed to get attention.
And the mystery just endures. His identity, his real victim count, is it 5? Is it 37? And those ciphers remain an absolute unsolved puzzle.
Exactly. We're stuck in that gap between circumstantial probability and forensic fact.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over as you think about this killer. Remember, Zodiac admitted in a letter that he was that stocky white man the police saw and let go during the Paul Stine murder search.
He bragged about it.
So what does that tell you about his main motivation? Was the killing maybe secondary to this overwhelming desire to publicly humiliate the authorities, to control the whole narrative? His goal wasn't just to murder, but to prove he was smarter than the system. And that failure of capture, which he publicized in detail, is exactly what turned him into a legend. If you look at the source material again, what other clues do you think are still hidden in that massive 340 symbol cipher that remains completely unlocked?